The future starts now for the Calgary Flames. Jonathan Castagna's contract signals a turning point toward the youth, promise, and a new era on the ice for the Calgary Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Locked On Flames. I am Ryan G. The official opponent jersey power rankings for the last week of games faced against the Calgary Flames. Excited for that coming up later on in the show. And perhaps maybe the Calgary Flames were who we thought they were after a little bit of a reality check against the Colorado Avalanche on Monday. But we start with Jonathan Castagna signing with the Calgary Flames. And now that the first youth piece is officially signed, it's time to start imagining what the next few months could be like. And I present to you some substantiated hope, excited, eager for Calgary to be able to churn this page. Everything up until this point is felt like a little bit of the input, and now we're starting to see some of the output, especially with Castagna being a piece of one of the trade deadline deals that the Calgary Flames made. That's what has this so feeling so exciting, because you have somebody who Calgary came out of those deals with, who's now officially going to be in the Calgary professional system. The details of this are specifically a entry-level contract that's going to start at the next season, the next league year, if you will. And so he's going to report to the Calgary Wranglers and have a professional tryout agreement for the remainder of the season. That's according to Jane McNally, who's been on the show as senior editor for the Cornell Daily Sun and has been echoed throughout the rest of the hockey circles and all of the places that you would expect. So, I mean, that's even how it's presented on the official Calgary Flames website. But Jane was on the show with us talking about exactly what they're seeing firsthand at Cornell, and with the season over for Cornell, ousted from the NCAA tournament. It's exciting to see that Calgary will now get some of these college prospects into the professional system and have them start out on these contracts. It'll be nice to start seeing how the Flames kind of go beyond the moves that we've seen. And I think there's a lot to be optimistic about because of that. Now, there's been a lot of players that have been recalled and then resent back to the Wranglers. That's not something that Castagna will experience this year. But you look at how he's kind of finished out the season and how big of a part he was for that Reds offense. In fact, we're going to play some sound bites as he talked to NHL Flames on X about what he's excited about, a little bit about what the process was like getting to this moment where he's signing a professional contract with the Calgary Flames organization. Yeah, 15 goals, 34 points. He had a plus minus of plus 23, and he was really the driver for this team. And I think that's the part that gets me excited the most, is he describes himself as a 200-foot player, somebody who can contribute so well on the defensive side. That's something that he seemed to emphasize. But in reality, the other piece of that is he's somebody who can contribute to the offense, especially that's the pieces that Calgary needs the most. ECAC hockey's best defensive forward. So that's a piece that's, certainly in his DNA, somebody who is excited about the opportunity to play on that side of the puck, but will, again, add some offense that Calgary is desperately needing. And we'll talk more about what happened on Monday in Denver against the Colorado Avalanche. A little bit of a wake-up call, certainly, after the Flames played so well during their 6-game homestand in Calgary. But just impressive that he's now in the organization. Jonathan Castagna is with the Calgary Flames organization, and he talked to NHL Flames on X about just that.
You know anybody?
Well, funny enough, I actually played with Zayne Parekh a while back. Probably we were in single digits age, so a long time ago. So it'll be cool to reconnect with him now. But coaches, I haven't really spoken to any of the coaches yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, just looking forward. Strome just came up and introduced himself. He seemed like a really nice guy, so I'm excited to really meet everybody. I was the Duffield Devils, and I couldn't even tell you how old I was on that team, and it's hard to tell you even what was going on back then because I was so young, but definitely played with Zayne, and good kid, good family, and I'm looking forward to I guess, meeting him again. It's been a long time, so.
How exciting is that? What a fun little anecdote that they added into that Flames TV interview is you have somebody in Jonathan Castagna who's played with the guy that everyone's pointing toward with the Calgary Flames and, can't remember the details behind it and all of that. But that's pretty cool that happened to be a little bit of a connection between those two. So you get this first youth piece in the Flames system officially signed. Jonathan Castagna is there, and it's fun because you get a chance now to start imagining what the next few months could be. And I definitely encourage you to think of them as substantiated hope, really is the word that comes to mind. This is the evidence that's presented forward to you to believe that all of this stuff is actually going to work out. And while we won't know, and the Toronto Maple Leafs made a move on Monday that also for Flames fans, echoes of all of that uncertainty that existed during the Brad Tree-Living era of Calgary Flames hockey. Like, this is exciting. We'll talk more about that coming up in the second segment. This is another thing that stood out to me. This is told to the Calgary Herald from the Flames director of player development, Ray Edwards, on Castagna. He's probably as pro-ready as they come because he plays the right way. He's been very well coached. You can tell from the way he plays and the details, how does he use his stick? Is he on the right side of the puck? Is he above people? Is he diving in when he shouldn't be diving in? There's little things like that. He's a highly intelligent player who wins faceoffs at a high rate. And on top of that, he's been producing. He truly is a 200-foot player in the true sense of the word. And that's the other piece that he talked to Flames TV about. We present that from NHL Flames on X.
Yeah, obviously, emotional roller coaster to say the least. As you said, my playoffs ended 2 days ago, and I had to move on from guys that I've been with for the past 3 years. So that was really tough for me to handle. But also going into a situation like this right after is probably the best thing that you could ask for. So I can't be too sad about leaving when all of this new stuff is hitting me right in the face. So. It's been really cool, and it hasn't been too hard to manage. And I know those guys are always going to be by my side. So, I would like to say I'm a 200-foot player. I value the details of the game. I like to think that I can make a difference on the defensive side, but also the offensive side of the puck. So, just someone who's tenacious and not afraid to get in there and play fast and physical, and just try to bring a really hard work ethic every night.
So said it himself as somebody who wants to be able to play like that and feels like he's definitely up for the task and excited about what he brings to this Calgary team. It's here, Flames fans. It is here. It is happening, this youth movement, and maybe some accelerators still yet to be signed, whether it's an Ethan Wyttenbach, if he decides to go pro, or if it's somebody who comes through because Calgary ends up having one of those top 3 draft picks in the upcoming 2026 NHL entry draft. Maybe there's somebody even picked at 4 or 5 who is somebody that the Flames can rely on right away and add in another year of offseason development for Zayne Parekh, Matvei Gridin. It's all falling into place in so many ways. I mentioned that award, by the way, that he got for his conference defensive forward of the year. According to Cornell, he's the 8th different Cornell player to receive that award since it was first presented in 1993. So he's coming from a program that's pretty good at playing that kind of hockey. Also, one quick note from Ryan Pike of Flames Nation, tweet on Monday. I suspect the Flames have been having conversations with Cole Reschny's representation throughout the season, but I don't think the Castagna signing, going for a futures deal, would change their plans for Reschny, or even in parentheses added in Wyttenbach. So there's a chance that you might see 2 or 3 more signings potentially down the road this season for the Calgary Flames. I can't remember if they're allowed to sign 2, but that's kind of what I think Ryan Pike is alluding to in that tweet. Anyone worried that the Flames were poised to ruin their lottery position? The Colorado Avalanche kind of gave Calgary a little bit of dose of reality on Monday in Denver. We'll talk about that when this episode of Locked On Flames rolls back. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk, is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Tough night for Calgary in Denver on Monday. They fall to the Colorado Avalanche. It was just from start to finish, the best team in hockey taking on a team that's definitely destined for the lottery. And Calgary had done so much to give Flames fans some enjoyable experiences if you were not part of a bona fide team tank above all else kind of mantra, the way the Flames played in their 6-game homestand at Saddle Dome. But they fall 9-2 at Colorado, and it was just a big thud back to reality where exactly this Calgary Flames hockey team is, by and large, a team that's not as good as the Colorado Avalanche, certainly, and a team that's certainly challenging, having a challenging time even considering making the playoffs. Of course, if you don't miss any episodes of Locked On Flames, I encourage you to join our Everydayer Club. It is available to you ad-free. We have those ad-free episodes available to you. And you can access our group chat on our Discord. The Discord server continues to pop off, and I invite you to join not only me, but all of our Locked On podcast hosts and everyone who listens to the show as our Everydayer Club continues to grow. We would love to see you there as well. You can sign up to join us by going to lockedonflames.supercast.com and become an Everydayer Club member. You can also tap the link in the show notes to learn more. So a couple of bright spots for the Flames against Colorado. You had Brennan Othmann end up having a nice little centering pass at one point in the third. He ended up having a loose puck for his first goal in a Calgary uniform. That made it 5-1. You know it's a rough day when Calgary is scoring their first goal after the Avalanche had already put in 5. Nazem Kadri, who the Flames traded to Colorado, eventually had the return that was pretty good, all things considered. Calgary sending over their 2027 fourth-round pick to get Victor Olofsson, Max Curran, and a conditional first-round pick and a conditional second-round pick as well. And Olofsson continues to be absolutely stellar. Ryan Strome and Oli Mata, who came over as other parts of trades during the trade deadline. MacKenzie Weegar was sent to Utah. Mata came back 10 points now in 13 games as Strome had the other tally against the Avalanche. But man, why this matters is just that, right? Colorado is that far above and beyond where the Calgary Flames are right now. And I think it's reasonable to say, okay, always get rid of the extremes on both ends. Calgary is not as bad as the Vancouver Canucks. They're certainly not as good as the Colorado Avalanche. And there's always going to be one team that's above and beyond where everyone else is any given year in any professional hockey or professional league, let alone the NHL. But you'd want Calgary to be able to compete with a Dallas, a Minnesota, and Anaheim, Edmonton, if the Flames were in a position where Flames fans want them to be, where you would want any of your hockey teams to be, is competing at that level, not scraping to get into the postseason, but a team that has been hanging out in the top 3 of their division the entire season, which by and large, those teams that I just referenced have. Vegas Golden Knights, huge shakeup over the weekend with the firing of their head coach, but they're the most unstable of these teams that have kind of been hanging out in those top 6 spots the majority of the year, and that's certainly what you want the Calgary Flames to be. It's not just about competing for the playoffs. That's what Calgary has been. This shift to Craig Conroy dedicating the Flames to a full bona fide rebuild is about building a team like what we saw the Avalanche be able to do. I mean, this is a team that is only a few years removed from winning the Stanley Cup. And when you are a perennial contender, not what the Flames have been. The Flames have been one of those teams that can get a playoff spot and maybe have an outlier season when they're finishing with the most points in a conference or in the league. Those kind of things happen occasionally. Colorado has had sustained success over the course of their franchise. I mean, by and large, you could look back at the Avs ever since they moved out to Colorado, and every single year they're in contention. You could also argue that Vegas has been that kind of group ever since becoming an expansion franchise. And that's ideally where you want the Calgary Flames to be. And the Flames certainly are not that. It's just that they're also a really interesting team when they're going through that schedule at Scotiabank Saddledome and winning 5 of 6 and competing, and their only losses to a first place team in overtime. So there's these little bits and pieces that are fun and way more enjoyable than what we saw on Monday in Denver. You heard Blake Coleman perhaps on Saturday said something to the effect of like, hey, we might have a little mantra going on right now where we want to upset Team Tank a little bit. And I personally want that from professional athletes. I don't want a team that is comfortable with the idea of losing. And that is very difficult for me to share with you because I know that many of you want to see this team go straight to the bottom as quickly as possible. And that's not something I can give myself a little bit of a mind meld. I don't know whether you call it a cloak. And I'm not familiar with wizard movies or anything. I was going to try to reference Harry Potter, and I got nothing for you because I've never seen any of them. But my point is, I can't trick myself into wanting my team to lose. But I can get behind this idea that when they lose, it's all for the greater good of trying to get this team to be something that's more like the Colorado Avalanche over the last 3 decades versus what the Flames have been over the last 3 decades. I mean, 1988 is not too far removed from 1995, and that's where this Avalanche story begins. And, around that mid-90s spot. And what we saw on Monday, you can't tell me that you enjoyed that. That was not an enjoyable experience. The Flames losing in a close matchup to the Anaheim Ducks, if you do want to say score as few of points as you can, and certainly they could have done better because they did take it to overtime, that is something that I can understand. But there's no way. I mean, you open that game in 5-6 minutes and it's 3-0. There's nothing that is enjoyable about that. You can tell me that you like the result, but there was nothing enjoyable about watching that game. And that certainly was the case. And so I think the nice thing is Calgary is making some moves to try to make their franchise one of those teams that's closer to where the Avs are, or even maybe having a stretch of time where Calgary is in so many ways, even like what the Oilers are. I mean, winning Western Conference championships and winning consecutive Western Conference championships is not anything to kind of, turn your head away from. So it was rough. But maybe a little bit of a good dose of reality. And if you are a bona fide Team Tank, maybe it gives you a little bit of calm to say, okay, with the schedule that they have ahead, especially 2 more games against the Avs, the points are not going to be there for Calgary to really completely screw up their lottery chances. And Cale Makar, one quick note out of that. This is from Corey Mesizik from the Denver Post. Apologies, Corey, if I have your name wrong. Flames, the hit from Adam Klapka ended up putting Cale Makar out of the game. I don't think he ended up, it said they had took 2 more shifts in the second after being looked at by the training staff. And I want to say I caught the tail end of the Avs broadcast that he did not come back, but that's, significant for both the Colorado Avalanche, and everybody's hoping the Alberta guy ends up coming to Calgary right after his tenure with the Colorado Avalanche are done. Certainly not immediately on the ladder there, but something that is worth talking about. But I saw that and I figured I'd pass it along in the context of that game on Monday in Denver. So Calgary loses big. Next game for the Flames, they'll be playing on Thursday at Vegas, and that's a team that is reeling, but maybe the coaching change will spark something for the Golden Knights as well. As we do every single Monday, our official opponent jersey power rankings is coming up next. We look at the aesthetics of the opponents that visited the Saddle Dome as the tail end of that homestand had some pretty good looks. Some pretty good jerseys to debate, probably is better said. We'll do that next on this episode of Locked On Flames. Which team wore it best for the opponents that visited Scotiabank Saddle Dome the last 3 games of that homestand? We actually recently looked at Anaheim a few weeks back. You have Vancouver for the first time, I believe, since I took over the show. I mean, I came in right before that San Jose game, and looking back at the schedule, yeah, there hasn't been a Vancouver game since our first chance to both critique the Canucks and the Los Angeles Kings road jerseys are on this one as well. I think we've only looked at the Kings home look. So we're going to do that right now with our official opponent jersey power rankings. You can vote on your favorite looks on our YouTube page. And big thanks to everybody who's continuing to help our YouTube channel grow. We're up to 826 subscribers as of the recording of this show, plus 75 basically in the last month. That is so huge because our goal in the next 3 weeks is to reach 1,000 subscribers if we can. So continue to please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And of course, finding the podcast on your favorite podcast app by hitting the subscribe button there. We'll start with the Anaheim Ducks. No, the Los Angeles Kings. We go back to the LA Kings. That was a team that faced Calgary back on March 24th. And the black and white color scheme is very bare bones for me, but the fact that Los Angeles kind of moved away from trying to mimic the Lakers, which I think was probably a smart move. Los Angeles is a hard market to try to unify your teams. You can't pull a Pittsburgh, or by and large, like the Seattle market has pretty much the same color scheme across most of their teams in the absence of the Sonics. Like, you cannot do that as easily in Los Angeles, especially when you have all the fringe teams like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or however their term now, right? So going to that black and white color scheme, probably a smart move from the purple and gold that used to exist. The jersey numbers are actually really solid. I like the return to that Los Angeles Kings logo that's right front and center on the uniforms. The bands match at the top and the bottom. So for a road jersey that features really only gray and black, neutral colors, it looks really good. There's not a lot going up on the shoulders. The logo in the middle is a fairly large logo, which I actually kind of appreciate. I'm not going to give huge credits because there's nothing about a jersey that doesn't kind of have that pop of color that I think is going to put it over the B threshold. But I think the Los Angeles Kings are hanging right around B minusville for their look on the road. It's a huge contrast to that of the Anaheim Ducks. These road jerseys are not something I enjoy in the least. They use the old, but was the new, and now they have the original old logo as their primary logo. So they use the old new logo that was the D webfoot up on the shoulders. It's in the middle of this huge orange patch across the shoulders. The numbers on the back of these uniforms kind of has, it's not even a drop shadow. It's like a hybrid outline drop shadow that just, it doesn't look good. There's almost too much use of all of the colors in their scheme, with having so much gold present, including in the numbers on the back. Yeah, I guess it is like a drop shadow outline. It's not great. I do appreciate their word type, where they have, many teams have their own font that they use, and it's either called a typeface or a word font or something along those lines. Word mark, maybe. I do like that. That does look pretty good on the back as the name on back, but otherwise the jerseys are just hodgepodge of things, and I just don't enjoy them, especially the road look. I like the commitment to orange on the home uniforms better than I like the way that they look on the road. So I'm going to go D+ for the Anaheim Ducks road uniforms. And I want to say this is the first time we've talked about those road uniforms over the course of time. There was a trip at Anaheim, and we're going to have another one coming up. But yeah, the prior Ducks visit was prior to me being in the hosting chair. So first chance to look at those. Likewise for the Vancouver Canucks, these jerseys also have a lot going on the shoulders with that square hockey stick logo. The Vancouver Canucks primary logo is a really good one. The big band of that tealish green, maybe an evergreen through the middle is I don't get the same kind of color combination the way that it seems to work with like the Seattle Seahawks old uniforms. That's kind of the color scheme that the Vancouver Canucks have. And on those road jerseys, it doesn't come across the way that I imagine I would want it to. I cannot visualize Vancouver's home jerseys, and we're not going to see them again before the end of the regular season. So I can't make a comment on that. But the way that they looked on the ice at Scotiabank Saddledome last Saturday, I think if you get rid of some of the marks above the shoulders, it gives it a little bit of a cleaner look. And the cuffs, the bands around the arms and the waist are matched, but then you get blue that kind of extends to the armholes. And I'm learning as we go over this effort to talk about visiting aesthetics each and every week. That's just not my favorite look. So I'm going to go, it's much better than the Ducks. I'm going to go probably a C for the Vancouver road jerseys. Not my favorite, but of the three that we saw last week in Calgary, I think the Kings get my favorite look. So let us know in the YouTube comments which opponent aesthetic you like the best visiting Calgary, and we'll have a couple more coming up on next Monday's edition of the show with the trip to Colorado from Monday, a trip to Vegas, and a trip to Anaheim as the three jerseys that we'll rate a week from now. And then we're down to kind of the final weeks of the regular season, so there won't be a whole lot of this to do, but we will bring it back as we look at maybe things on a division by division basis, maybe even breaking down certain teams' looks over the history of their franchise, which would be a lot of fun as well. So if you enjoy this segment, please let me know in the show notes in the comments. We certainly appreciate that as you have tuned in. I've been in the hosting chair for just over 3 months now. I really enjoying this experience with you. Recording the show is super fun. So thank you so much for making Locked On Flames your first listen. Continue to subscribe to the show on audio. Continue to download it. And certainly on YouTube, thank you for subscribing and leaving comments. That does a whole lot for us. And of course, take it to the next level with the Everydayer Club. You can go to lockedonflames.supercast.com to learn more. It's going to get you that members-only Discord link, as well as an ad-free version of the show on the same favorite podcast app that you like, lockedonflames.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And for those on audio, please make your second listen NHL Game Night with Locked On NHL. My name is Ryan G. Thanks for having fun with us on this episode of Locked On Flames. We'll talk to you again soon for more.